And welcome once again to PWT Talks NXT. I'm your host for the evening, Nate Lindberg. You can check the things that I do out at natelindberg.com. And we're here on November 19th, 2024 to talk NXT for that date here on the CW, here on the PWTorch Daily Cast. Joining me, filling in for Kelly Wells tonight, is the Doctor of WrestleNomics himself, the Professor, Kevin Cattani. Kevin, thank you very much for filling in for Kelly tonight.
Listen, I'm always honored to be called, and I'm happy to help, especially in this situation. So let's talk wrestling, and let's get some of our usual suspects on the chat here.
Absolutely. Kelly is going through some family issues right now. Some words of encouragement to Kelly. Hopefully he'll be here next week, and hopefully be back in the swing of things. If you'd like to be part of the show, you can certainly email us, pwtorchnxt@gmail.com. Or if you happen to be watching us live and you'd like to be part of the show, feel free to go to pwtorch.com, look for my live report, big NXT logo in the middle of pwtorch.com, and you can find a link to this show to be a part of the show. And you can just join, and I'll see you join in the bottom of my screen over here, and I'll bring you on to talk with us. I'm going to make this email address go away. I thought I did. There we go. All right, so NXT, we had a main event tonight. That main event was Andre Chase versus Ridge Holland, with some stipulations added here. Whoever the winner was, would go on to face Trick Williams for the number one contender, go on to become the number one contender for Trick Williams' NXT title. However, if Andre Chase lost, Chase University would have to disband. And it kind of, leading up to this match, I was wondering if they were going to disband. We saw everybody, there was almost everybody in the crowd, in like the middle section of the crowd, was wearing a Chase University shirt. They gave a lot of time to some nostalgia for Chase University. Showed a couple of video clips of older things that had happened within Chase University. Like I said, some of those nostalgia clips, and I'm thinking to myself, I think this is it for Chase U. I know we talked, Jobin and I talked last week here on the show about this, and it also made sense too. Andre Chase is a babyface. Trick Williams is a babyface. So positioning two babyfaces for a title isn't always the easiest thing to do. You're also trying to build up Ridge Holland to be a badass heel. What better way to be to build up a heel than to dismantle a beloved stable within NXT? So beloved, in fact, one of the closing shots tonight was actually a girl in the crowd, like crying, being consoled by person she was with, assuming her mother or something like that, because Andre Chase is no more. I don't know. I'm very torn on this, but Kevin, let's get your thoughts on our main event here tonight.
Listen, it's a very sad day for higher education institutions all over the globe. I get it, but the logic behind this particular group disbanding just makes you scratch your head a bit, because if we're accepting that Chase U is a school of wrestling or a school of whatever, simply by losing a match, meaning they have to completely disband, doesn't make any sense. But certainly I know they were trying to up the stakes and give people a reason to invest. So certainly I know this is not the end for any of those wrestlers that were involved in the group. And if I know Andre Chase even 1%, knowing how he got himself out of the gambling issue and all that, I would bet that we're going to see Chase College or some other rebranding where they'll come back to now be the thorn in Ridge Holland's side. Now, that's not going to happen in the next week or two, but I think we'll see some vignettes in the next probably month where they're having brainstorming sessions about how to make good on all of this, and they'll find a way to come back as something else. And I would imagine then their mission becomes, how do they chip away at Ridge Holland and make him feel some reverse anguish, I guess. So you're right. I think they were flagging.
Whoop.
Excuse me. I think they were flagging for us with all those shirts and all that disappointment was coming. But I was still very invested in the match. There were a lot of good near falls. Um, Certainly, I thought once Chase U came out to help, that maybe that would have helped put things over the edge. But I'm not at all upset by the outcome. And like I said, I think it's going to tell a larger story that we're just seeing the beginning pages for. And I'll be very interested to see how it all sort of shapes up.
I really hope you're right. I really do. Because I worry that if they really do disband Chase University and then they don't like revisit it, they don't, come up with the College of Chase or, the University of Chase at it's not, they're not at Full Sail anymore, but you know what I mean. Come up with some alternative name for the school. Um, I'm worried that if they don't, like, I feel like a lot of people are going to flounder. Andre Chase even being one of them, because he's just spent so much time as this character. I, I don't know. I'm worried to see where this character is going to go, where it's going to progress. The ones that I'm really worried about, though, be like Thea Hale. I think will find her way. Um, Duke Hudson, the last time he was a singles, he was kind of floundering around before he found his way with with Chase University, and then Riley Osborne. Riley, he's still making a name for himself. He's still young in the and very new to the business. I say very new. He's been around for almost a year now, I think, if not longer. But hey, time flies, as I think Kevin and I were discussing off air. I don't think we were discussing that on air. I think we're discussing how time flies right before we went on air tonight. Um, but he's the one he's one of the ones I really do worry about. All of them I think are very talented, but I feel like right now at least the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Um, so we'll see. We'll see. I'm kind of hoping that you're right and we do see some sort of resurgence of Chase University. But to me tonight, this almost felt like a swan song for Andre Chase. The Usually, when somebody's getting called up to the main roster, there's something for them, whether it be a moment or something like that. And this felt like that moment here for Andre Chase. For me, and I could be completely off base, but with everybody in that middle section, or at least maybe a good 70% of the people in that middle section in the audience wearing Chase University shirts, being in the main event here tonight and having, this really big blowout with Ridge Holland that kind of dismantled this institution that he created. I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't really know how he comes back from that, or if he does come back from that, or if if this is his call up. We'll
Well, and
see.
listen too, in real life, it could just be a chance to give this group some time off.
That could be too.
I think for as big a part as Chase U has been as a stable, I think they're now, as we saw, and I don't want to bury any of our content for the middle and end of the show, but as we saw during one of the tag team matches, there's a lot more groups in NXT than I think we probably realized. And this could very well just be a chance to get them off TV for a little bit, let some of these other groups get some fresh air, give those guys a chance to heal slash see their families slash whatever.
Yeah, just take some
Um,
time off.
and I think kind of once the story makes sense, they will for sure come back as Chase Technical College of the Southwest and or some other acronym that probably has um, um, their soon to be arch nemesis in their title or something. And I do think they'll come back in some form because you're right. I don't know that any of absent Duke Hudson, I don't think Riley or Thea is really kind of strong enough to stand out in a singles division right now, and they kind of need that group. So I think this might be a chance for them to breathe some air, and maybe either after the new year or kind of right going into the new year, um, we definitely can see them reemerge again.
For sure, for sure. Brock Benningfield in the chat says Thea Hale can shine on her own. Let her fly. And like I said, I don't disagree with that. Don't disagree with that at all. Yeah, I think she's going to land on her feet. She's got a lot of charisma. She's getting better and better and better in the ring, and she's still super super young. So I mean, she keeps learning and progressing at the pace that she has been since her debut. Then I think she's going to be
And
great.
Nate, this literally just popped into my head as you were talking. But
Yes,
as far as Osborne goes, could Osborne end up replacing Frazer and now I'm blanking on
Axiom.
Axiom, because they're teasing that tension.
Yeah,
He's a fast cruiserweight type. Is maybe he jumps in and takes the part of whatever guy bumps out, to
I
give.
I don't hate that.
I
I
just
don't hate that.
I think he certainly matches their style, and
Yeah,
so if it's something where if they're gonna flip Frazer and make him the bad guy, to keep Axiom a face, then partner him with Osborne. He's already got the crowd support from Chase U, and honestly, I don't think you're gonna stop seeing Chase U shirts in the crowd either. I think
no.
now that's going to become the trendy nostalgia act, if you will, and people are still going to be wearing the shirts. So
Yeah, like every once in a while you still see him a hugger or something, or an Austin 316 shirt, or I mean those are two vastly
I just
different
wore
eras, but yeah.
I have the Bar shirt. I was a big Bar fan, and I just wore that around town the other day and got a look from someone like, "Is that really that shirt?"
I was actually I went to an exhibit. It was a Titanic exhibit in Boston. I was nice and refined this weekend and went to
I
a
see that.
museum.
Wow.
Um, and I'm walking around and I actually saw somebody in a CM Punk hoodie, and I just kind of like walked up from behind and like tapped him on the shoulders, like nice hoodie. And like just kept walking. We just kind of like a little nod, but I don't normally do. He looked like a normal person, so I didn't mind doing that. Usually, if I see somebody wearing wrestling merch out in the world, uh, I avoid them. Anyway, I'm gonna.
It's one of your biggest passions, yet when you see them in the wild, you put your head down and you keep walking the other way.
Well, no, sometimes you can just tell. Like, I was on
You're
a
not wrong.
date.
I know what you mean. I know what you
Yeah,
mean.
I was on a date once, and I had a Brody Lee shirt on. And yes, I wore a Brody Lee shirt on a date. Sue me.
Also,
And
Nate, Brody Lee. I think that was a name that we forgot last episode. And maybe Kelly couldn't put his finger on it, neither could I. So
I
there
don't
you go.
know. Okay. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, somebody saw the Brody Lee shirt, and like this was shortly after he passed away, and like just comes up to me and starts talking to me, like going and going and going and going, and I'm like, I'm on a date. She has no idea what a Brody Lee or an AEW is. Thank you, but anyway, uh, that's we'll move on from my dating life. Uh, so actually, this was something I wanted to bring up. Um, Ridge Holland versus Trick Williams. How does that sound to you?
If I'm being completely honest, it sounds like a match. Like I don't see Trick losing. I think it's a credible opponent for Trick. I think it's someone you're gonna get good visuals at Deadline or wherever they face off. But I think it's really and truly, if I'm taking myself out of the story and sort of looking at this analytically, I'm thinking that this is good. They're trying to give Ridge another chance in a title scene to see, can you hack it? Can you be safe? Can you follow the flow of a match? And can you do it with one of our biggest up and comers right now, um, presumably on a PLE? And so I don't see him winning, but I do see it as their way of saying, show us you can have a good match at the top of the card and not get anybody hurt. Because unfortunately for him, I still think that's sort of the MO that follows him. And I think even in the way that I watched him tonight change, the way he's even made subtle changes to some of his moves to still make them look impactful while not putting body parts in danger is a good sign to me. And so I think now they want to see him do it with the adrenaline rush of it being a championship match and all that. So I think it's going to be a good match. They certainly can both work. But I would honestly not see Trick losing, and I think it's just a way to reward the push they're giving him, keep him up at that level, and move Trick on to whatever's next.
Cool. I am pretty much in 100% agreement with you here. On paper, Ridge Holland versus Trick Williams, doesn't really do much for me. But with the story they have been telling with Ridge Holland, and then especially tonight with his performance tonight, I thought he did a great job in that monster heel role, kind of, slowly destroying Chase University piece by piece. In a lot of ways, and this is, I don't mean this as it's actually going to sound bad. I don't mean this as a big of a compliment as it's going to sound like, but I got a lot of Brock Lesnar vibes off of him tonight.
Sure.
There's a lot, suplexes and things like that. I'm not saying he's nearly the talent that Brock Lesnar is, but I think he was able to kind of get in that headspace tonight and kind of channel that same type of a killer type attitude that and character that Brock Lesnar brings to the ring.
Well, let me tell you where I saw some evolution in him tonight, because I think one of his downsides is his acting. Yep. And that moment at the end when he realizes what has just happened and kind of busts into that not oversold, but certainly maniacal laugh of, I did it. This group doesn't exist anymore, and it's because of me. To me, and I'm even getting tingly even saying it. I think that was a huge acting moment for him to show he can show emotion, he can read the room, he has that IQ piece of sort of the moment, and it got caught on camera. I think that was a really big step for him.
I actually, that's a really good point. There was that moment, and also his interview, I think it was with Sarah Schreiber right before this match, or shortly before this match. It was really a nothing promo, right? He didn't say anything that he hadn't already said a million times, and he didn't say it in. But let me put it this way: it's a promo that we're probably going to forget about next week. But I still think the way that he delivered it was really good for Ridge Holland and what we could expect out of him. I almost feel like tonight was a moment, or tonight was a night where things, at least it came across to me like things clicked for Ridge Holland in this role in a few different ways. So, or at least he figured out a way to express his heelness, if you will, to the audience a little bit better. But I actually really like what we saw at Ridge Holland tonight. I'm still, not I don't want to say I don't care, because obviously I don't want to say that about anybody, but it's still not, he's still not somebody that I'm clamoring to see, or I would pay a ticket specifically to see him. But I think, like you said, he's a good foil right now for Trick. I don't see him winning, but I think this is a way to get a good, strong, solid opponent for Trick Williams right now, but also continue to build up a monster heel in Ridge Holland before inevitably, assuming bringing him back to the main roster.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's continue on here. I apparently scrolled around in my notes just in an ADD moment. So where am I here? Okay, let's go ahead. We'll talk about Wren Sinclair with Charlie Dempsey versus Zaria. I'm just going to go backwards in order of matches tonight. Why not? This match went approximately 3 minutes and 30 seconds. The Ridge Holland Andre Chase match, I didn't mention it, went approximately 12 minutes. This match between Zaria and Wren Sinclair was the shortest match of the night, in about 3:30. This match was pretty much exactly what I expected it to be. Zaria coming into the company very strong. She's got almost. I hate to use the term Lady Kane, because that was something Tegan Knox coined and all that, but I know, poor Tegan. But I get a lot of Kane, like old school kind of like a female Kane vibe out of her. She's big, she's red, but not only that, she's a monster. She
Is she
can't.
a machine?
She might be a machine.
But you know what, Nate? You know who I see in her? And I was
Yes.
joking with my brother over the course of the show. A bigger, newer Luna Vachon without the
Mm.
crazy streak, like the like unhinged streak. Like it is
I
channeling like Luna vibes.
You know what? I like that even better than my like comparison to Kane. I only went with Kane because Kane, when I think of him, that big kind of like stoic
Yeah.
monster, can't be taken down, blah blah blah. And in a way, that's kind of how they're presenting her. But man, I like the Luna Vachon comparison. Really, I really like that.
We just need to look for when she starts doing the red lightning bolts down the side of her shaved head. And
maybe that'll be like a like a stand and deliver type of tire,
like a demon Finn Balor thing, like that.
Yeah, to like channel Luna Vachon or something like that. But yeah, like I said, so this match is pretty much exactly what I thought it was going to be. Zaria, pretty solidly in control throughout the course of the match. Wren Sinclair getting a little bit of offense in, but really anytime she get one thing in, as soon as she went for the next move, Zaria was pretty much right there on top, ready to reverse it, and take momentum back in the match. I still think Wren Sinclair looked good here, even in defeat. She played it off like, okay, I'm the underdog. I don't have a chance in hell, but you know what? I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight. So even though it was a quick 3-minute match, I think this was still some good stuff and some good storytelling for both Zaria and Wren Sinclair. Kevin.
Yeah. If I'm picking nits, I noticed early on there were a couple of timing and like body position sort of gaffes, and I think that was on the part of Wren. Like I think she got too much space in moves where she was supposed to be a little closer together. But I think Wren is still learning. I think she's still kind of green. And I think Zaria is still getting used to the WWE system. I think as great as and we'll talk about Stephanie in a little bit and Julia, not in wrestling form tonight, but she was on the show. But I think as great as these international wrestlers are in their home market, there's still some bit of acclimatization as it relates to the WWE way of doing things. And I know that the WWE ring, I think, is bigger than many of the other company rings. And so getting used to maybe you could go from one side to the other in 4 steps, and now it takes you 5, and you're used to jumping, and you know what I mean? Like you can just tell there's a little bit of that. And I noticed that early in this match. But I think, like you said, they did fine with each other. I think it was the squash match it needed to be without using a no-name local jobber. Like it was getting screen time for a talent they're trying to develop, but certainly flagging for us that Zaria is not anybody to trifle with, and she's gonna let you see. She's gonna show you, not tell you.
No, indeed. I agree. I think Zaria, she's coming in very strong. I can see her challenging for the NXT Women's Title right off the bat, and if not, because like Stephanie and Julia are already kind of up in that scene, maybe she challenges Fallon Henley next. No, actually, it won't be next week. That's Tatum Paxley, but maybe she challenges for the North American Championship or something like that. Kind of get some gold around her waist quick, because I think they could have something special there with Zaria.
And I think she immediately elevates herself to a favorite in the Iron Survivor match.
Oh, 100%. 100%. All right, let's go ahead. We'll go to the next match. Dion, Lennox, and Brinley Reece versus Karmen, Petrovic, and Ashante the Adonis. First, we'll go to a comment from Jake from Windy City in our chat here on YouTube. Jake says, Karmen and Ashante give me 90210 and Degrassi vibes. Give them their Savage and Liz moment and let them kiss. I never watched really 90210 or Degrassi for that matter.
I did not watch Degrassi, but I did watch 90210.
I probably watched more Degrassi, I think, than 90210. A friend of mine was big into it. So like if I was hanging out at his house and Degrassi was on, like I'd watch it because there was a TV in the room, and it's hard to ignore a TV in the room. Um, but yeah, I definitely see that. They've got some chemistry. Sometimes I think it's a little awkward, but it might be forced awkward. I'm not sure.
Listen, I've got two things. Firstly, Jake from Windy City. If I can channel my insurance commercial, what are you wearing? I don't know if they wear khakis in the Windy City. Um, and then secondly, come on, you got to let this flex out a little bit. He's
Oh
going to
yeah,
walk into more of these speed traps with all the different women on the roster long before they eventually finally let them have their moment. But I don't
yes.
disagree. Certainly the chemistry is there.
Absolutely. And we saw, we haven't even talked about the matchup, but after the match, we saw Ashante and Karmen backstage kind of flirting, talking about their win. And Nikita Lyons walks by and is like, "Hey, it's Ashante. I never got never got a text back last night or the other day or whatever she said." And, Karmen was a little bit upset at that. Um, I mean, I wonder why. It's not like they're exclusive or anything. Ashante's still well within his rights to send texts to other women, I think.
And
I
listen,
don't
it
know.
could have
Maybe this
been,
is why I'm
hey,
still
what's in
single.
catering today? I
Yeah, right. Um, but yeah, the match itself, it was a intergender tag match or mixed tag match, as WWE likes to call it. Like I said, Dion Lennox and Brinley Reece, Karmen Petrovic, Ashante the Adonis. We saw Ashante and Karmen get the win in about 4 minutes and 30 seconds. The win came after Adonis would try to flirt with Reece. Well, Reece was a legal competitor. Ashante was on the apron. He tries to flirt with her. She ends up slapping him, which allowed Karmen to kind of capitalize on the distraction, get what I believe was a super kick on Reece for the win. I mean, the match, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't long enough for me to really get into, especially considering probably the first minute of the match, they just, it was basically I think the women started as the legal competitors and then turn around and tag the men in. The men tag the women in. The women tag the men in, and like there's no actual touch. Like there's no wrestling going on. It's story development. Because nobody wanted to tag in and whatnot. But I don't know. I just thought it was kind of dumb. To be completely honest, it's just like start the damn match. I already don't like mixed tag matches for the most part because of the shift in momentum. Like
I
you
was
got
just
to,
going to say, I think their method of doing it, and I get it,
yeah,
and certainly you want to make sure your bigger message of respect for women is there. But if that's the case, then don't even offer it, because the fact that like you have to stop what you're doing to tag in the other gender to start, it's like it gets way too clunky. And I agree with
yeah,
Brock. It was very the match didn't matter. The match was there to move the story on. And if that's the case, you could do a backstage segment and have the exact same effect without having to worry about the clunkiness of how they run their mixed tag matches.
yeah. Now, because I mean, with mixed tag matches, it's like you're watching half of two matches.
Yeah.
You're watching a men's match and a women's match, but not at the same time. But they're taking place in the same ring. So yeah, like I already don't like them because of that. The momentum. As soon as you kind of start getting a bit of momentum, boom, it shifts because the other gender needs to come in.
But do you know what? Can I offer you the ultimate mashup?
Sure.
The War Games ring setup with a mixed tag match. Two matches going on at the same time. The men in one ring, the women in the other, and you gotta win both to win the match or something like that. I don't know.
We got to flesh the rules out for that a little bit, but I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
It's not the worst
Um,
idea, right? I mean, we put a
no,
coal miner's glove on a pole. I mean, come on.
they put a woman on a pole once.
Yeah.
Oh my God, why can't I think of the
Was that
dude's
Judy Bagwell on a pole?
Bagwell, Buff Bagwell. I'm just like, I knew it was Judy something. I couldn't think of Buff Bagwell. Judy's my mother's name, so I should remember that one. All right.
Well, we won't tell Miss Judy.
No. My mom will probably be like, hey, I was mentioned on a show. Yeah. Anyway, all right, let's go to an email from JB in Detroit. JB has 5 points. Actually, I haven't read the email, so I don't know if they're necessarily points or questions or a mix of both, but we will find out together. Hi, team. It's JB from Detroit. Tonight, Booker T called Jaida Pinkett, and said that he's more of a Beaver guy himself. I'll continue to say that one of the things I like least about NXT is the commentary. Who is more main roster? Number 2, who's more main roster ready, Stephanie Vaquer or Julia? Who do you guys prefer? Number 3, I kind of wish NXT would take a break on the poorly acted high school level love dramas, as we were just talking about Degrassi. Number 4, how long do they intend to drag out Axiom versus Nathan Frazer? How long do they intend to drag out the Nathan Frazer versus Axiom descent into a breakup storyline? And last but not least, number 5, I think that they did a very good job building to the main event of the show tonight. The video packages did an excellent job in getting the audience to buy into the underdog story of Andre Chase and Chase University. Love the show and go VIP. So first on his point on commentary, I don't mind Vic Joseph, really. I mean, he's bland. I don't love him. I don't hate him. He does his job. I think he does his job well. But I see him as generic commentator, number 7.
Background actor number 3.
Yeah, well, he's one of those. They went through a phase for a while where they were just trying to build the next Michael Cole, and all of the announcers just kind of sounded like Michael Cole. And Vic is one of the last few of them. I think he does a great job for what they tried to have him do is kind of be that next Michael Cole. I think he's doing a great job with it and all that. Like, that's nothing to knock on Vic Joseph, really, for me. It's just, like I said, he doesn't stand out for me like JR stood out for me, or Corey Graves stands out for me,
Well, here's the deal. You know what I think it is he is the middle of the road NFL quarterback. He is a manager. He does exactly what you want him to do and nothing more. But I think that that's on purpose because someone has to rein Booker T in. Yeah. And I think that really is the issue, is maybe he has more personality to show. Maybe at some point when they unsaddle him with Booker T, we'll get to see some of that. But I think because of the points that JB brings up in this email, in addition to a litany of other dumb, off-the-cuff, not filtered comments that he makes throughout his shows, there's got to be someone that can be the and let's get back to the main story here. And I think he does that as well as anybody because that's what they need. They can't afford to have 2 Booker T's. And so I think unfortunately, if pizzazz is what you want out of him, that's not what they're asking of him right now because they know Booker T very much is a wild card in that way.
Yeah. And man, I love Booker T. Don't get me wrong, legend and nothing but respect for the guy. But yeah, commentary,
he's a liability. And I don't say that. No disrespect, like you just said, all love for what he has done in the business. But I think you can tell those times when he's half paying attention, and to call Jaida Pinkett, and even if you thought you were being funny, that's not the point of what you're doing in a developmental brand where you're trying to get new talent over. You're trying to get new talent over.
I was just half expecting Will Smith to come out of nowhere and pop him one, but
that would have made for some good Tuesday night television.
That really would have made. I would be talking about that right now rather than
CW would have loved that for a ratings boost.
Oh my God, yeah. And I mean, hey, maybe it was a slip. Jaida Pinkett. I mean, that's not super far off. So I mean, maybe it was an accident. Who knows? I've never said the wrong thing when I meant something else before.
That's fair.
As it's never been
something about
documented on this show.
glass houses and stones, that's something like that.
Yeah, but that said, I don't know. I wish there was a different color guy in NXT, and I don't mean I mean color commentator.
Yes,
people, color commentator. It's funny because I'm not a boxing guy really, but just like the rest of the world, I needed to tune in and see if Mike Tyson was going to knock the crap out of Jake Paul. And instead, and I don't know what I expected. Well, I mean, I guess I do know what I expected. I wanted to see Mike Tyson.
Did you expect the red ring of death from Netflix just circling on your screen for 45 minutes?
No, but thankfully that fight was fine. My Netflix was good for that. It was like earlier in the night. It was giving me some shit. But I also didn't think we were going to see Mike Tyson's ass. I didn't think that was going to happen. But the one thing that I realized during the night, I miss Mauro Ranallo so much. And I know he's a bit controversial with some people. Like some people just think he's yelling all the time and he's way too energetic. And I'm like, that's part of the reason I love him. He's into it. And he's not, even if he's not into it, he sounds like he's into it, and it draws you in a bit more. Mauro was my favorite, one of my favorites in NXT. But.
And you know what? I wonder if the bridge has been burned, but if there was ever a time to try to bring him back, I think now is the time. Vince isn't involved anymore. I think a lot of the issues that contributed to him leaving are largely not factors anymore.
Yep.
Now, again, the bridge could be burned, and that's fine, and you got to look out and protect your peace. But I think if they wanted to try to reinvigorate that part of the broadcast, now would be a great time, especially since he was just on television, I think.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. For sure. And I mean, I know he does quite a bit of announcing and things like that, but, and he may have other commitments that won't allow him to do it. But I agree. I think if they were going to do it and they wanted to try and have those negotiations, those talks with Mauro, Triple H, I mean, I think Triple H is the perfect person to do it. I mean, considering he's the one that was running NXT at the time Mauro was down there. Because as far as I'm aware, he and Triple H had a great, pretty good relationship. I know it was a lot of the stuff with JBL on SmackDown that it's really what drew him out of the company and things like that. But all right. Anyway, JB's number 2 question: who is more main roster ready, Stephanie or Julia, and who do we prefer? If I had to choose, absolutely had to choose, and it would be a very tough choice for me. But right now, I think I would probably say Julia might be a little bit more main roster ready. But it would be like a 1A and 1B situation here. And I might just be saying Julia because I'm slightly more familiar with Julia than I am Stephanie at this point. I think, honestly, they both could probably go up to the main roster and be fine. But I would rather see them have a nice, solid 6-9 month run in NXT, get the WWE system under their belt, learn it, master it, and then move on to the main roster to be the stars that they're destined to be. How about you on that one?
I will take the counterpoint purely to provide a different opinion. I agree that they're kind of 1A and 1B, or 1A and 1A. But I would say purely because Kyrie and Io are still so front and center, and we know that in the past, WWE hasn't been the best in representing foreign talent outside of their foreignness, if you will, that Stephanie is different than that. And so if you're wanting a personality that isn't like what you have right now, I think that she would make the better immediate fit. But like I said, it's like, the winning lottery number and the winning parlay, like you're going to win no matter what. It's just a matter of what is the space ready for based on what's currently in the space.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. It's just something moving over my head, and it's my roommate. Anyway, I can't disagree with you whatsoever. you know, like I said, it's hard to pick. It's really hard to pick. Um, you know, I think Julia might have a little bit more star power, which might also be why I picked her too. But I mean, man, it doesn't matter. Whichever one was to be, if they just plucked one of them out right now and they picked it random between the two and just grabbed one to bring them up to main roster, they'd be fine. They'd be fine. Let's see. Third, I kind of wish NXT would take a break on the poorly acted high school level love dramas. Yeah, me too. But
Nope,
you know,
sticking with Jake here. Let those melodrama telenovela roles play out. Let's go.
It's not that I. Okay, so it's not like I
No.
I hate them, right? Well, I want to elaborate. It's not like I hate them or I don't, because this is absolutely 100% a place for them in wrestling, right? But man, we went through just so many of them in like the 2.0 era, and even though that was a while ago at this point, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not over it yet. I don't know.
No, I think
Um,
there's enough of a stink that seeing it again is like, are you
yeah,
telling me there's no better way to tell this story? But if you're going
yeah,
to
you
have
know.
one in a current storyline, there is a crop of the crowd that responds to the reality TV, will they, won't they? I think that's largely what they're trying to get at with that. But
Yeah,
I'm with you.
no, exactly. All right, number four. How long do they intend to drag out Axiom versus Frazier? God, I think until maybe 2038.
JB, the
Um,
answer is as long as they want. Oh, no, I'm kidding.
yeah, well, I thought it'd be done by now. Um, you know, I was saying maybe 6 months ago that I thought it was stale and they should move on. And you know, and you know what? To their credit, there have been times where they have pulled me back in a little bit, and then times they've lost me again. And right now, I'm kind of almost at a point of apathy
Yeah.
where I'm just like, come on, I don't care what happens with these guys, just let's get them away from each other. Um, I don't know what it is, why I don't like the two of them together. So like they have good chemistry together. They work well together. But I'm just kind of so ready to see them do something different with
Do
somebody
you, do you
else.
know what I think it is? I think they're having a competition between the New Day and Axiom and Frazier to see how few threads they can actually have holding them together before one or the other. So they're like trying to like wait each other out to be like, no, 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 you guys are going to break up first. No, 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 you guys are going to break up first.
They
To
could
the
be, and
point where maybe they both snap at the same time. Maybe in the same week that we have New Day break up on the next Tuesday show, Axiom and Frazier break up.
I'm really upset about the New Day. I want like you know, and I know you put a tag team together to break them up, but I New Day even said it like they wanted to be one of those tag teams like the Road Warriors that you know just went down in history as, and I think obviously will go down in history as one of the greatest tag teams ever. But you know, I wanted them to like span out their careers at least until one of them like had to retire or something. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll
Now
see.
buy all of the
I'm here
boxes
for
of
it.
Bootios that you can before they're no longer on sale.
I'm gonna have to. Bootios. That was a interesting WrestleMania entrance. Anyway, um, and JB's last point, I think they did a very good job building the main event tonight. The video packages did an excellent job getting the audience to buy into the underdog story of Chase and Chase U. Um, yeah, no, I agree. I think they did a great job kind of threading that needle throughout the night, and kind of building to that story. Um, I think the finish for that match was very impactful. Um, you could definitely just kind of tell the mood in the arena had shifted. Um, it was uh, it was like the mood in my house that had shifted a week ago or so, a couple weeks ago on a Wednesday for no reason in particular. Um, so yeah, all right. JB says love the show. Go VIP. All right, let's move on. Let me find my. Where did I put my notes? There they are. They're hiding behind Kevin's face on my screen. Let's go to Tony D'Angelo versus Brooks Jensen. This went about 4 minutes or so, um, which we saw Tony D'Angelo go over after reversing. I think it was a big boot into a spine buster for the win. Um, this match, I don't know what I was expecting going into it, to be honest. I think I was kind of expecting Brooks to get a win here because they're kind of, I don't know, they've been very start and stop with Brooks Jensen, I feel like. And I thought maybe kind of putting him in the spot, he might get a win. But on the flip side, he was really just the fodder for Sean Spears to try and get a crack at Tony D'Angelo. Um, 10, 10. So, I guess it makes sense, but at the same time, I kind of like, I don't know, if they're going to be doing this thing with Brooks Jensen, let him win every once in a while, I guess.
Yeah.
It's something more than a squash match. Um, I do like the fact that Jensen looked pretty intense throughout the course of his match, even going for the throat at one point. I thought not only did it make Brooks Jensen look pretty um, dastardly by going for the throat, but it also kind of helped to sell the tenacity of Tony D'Angelo continuing to fight even though he can't breathe and things like that. So I thought they did a good job in the story of the match here. I'm curious to see where this winds up going. I know later on in the night, D'Angelo went to Ava, said that he wanted a match, a match against Sean Spears, and she said as long as he gets cleared, that he will have that match. We saw that became a thing, became an official match later on in the night. Booker T and Vic Joseph mentioned that. I don't have a whole lot really to talk about, I guess, with this match. More than I already have. Wasn't a bad match at all. I thought it was a pretty good, solid powerhouse match. But I don't know. I'm curious to see where they go with the story, but it's not like my absolute favorite angle on the show right now.
I'm with you. I think, and like you said earlier, you hate to be super critical because certainly these folks are pouring their heart and soul into what they're doing and trying to tell stories. And if I could do it, I'd be doing it, right? So here I am, Monday morning armchair quarterbacking from the comfort of my own home. There you go. Tuesday night quarterbacking. There you go. But I think I'm not in the same way that you've become apathetic to some of your storylines. I don't buy Tony D'Angelo. He's good at, he's fine. He doesn't screw up, but they don't ask a lot out of him. His move set is not super wowy, and it doesn't necessarily need to be, but like. And then I think the thing that drives me nuts, as much as WWE has tried to, I'll say, clean up their act a bit, is he could be wearing 6 other different accessories that show that he's Italian and loosely connected with the family business than the gun holsters that don't have guns in them. Like, I think that's the thing that drives, like, you could wear suspenders, you could wear a million other, you come out with a plate of spaghetti if you want to hit the ball on the nose, but I just think that's not a good look. And I think if you're the Don, then you're not the one doing the dirty work anyway. And so why are you wearing those? So I think that was the thing, unfortunately, that stuck out to me the most, was that he comes out wearing those 2-sided gun holsters and they're empty. And I don't know if that's the message you really want to be sending in that way. And I agree with Brock in his most recent comment. I think, unfortunately for Tony D, and again, he can evolve. Many performers do, but like, that's his gimmick is such a callback to late '80s, early '90s, where everybody had a career or they had a shtick, and a lot of them never outgrew the shtick. And it's like, okay, well, you're just the Italian guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's better than that, but that's what he's got right now. And they don't give his group enough time. I don't know. I think Brock's right. When they eventually call him up, I don't know how that works with the larger crowd, who you don't really have that on the main roster right now, right? You have people who are secure in their nationalities, but it's not this, you know, Drew McIntyre doesn't come out with a plate of haggis and playing the bagpipes. It's like, yeah, I wear a kilt. Yeah, I'm Scottish, but like, that's not me. That's a part of me. Where Tony D is like, I am the mob. I am, you know what I mean? It's like, okay.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear you. Like, there is a lot actually about the family gimmick that I like, and I've talked about it in the past. I'm always drawn to mafioso type stories. I love The Godfather, Goodfellas, things like that. So I like what a lot of what they do, but yeah, there's a lot that I also I'm not a fan of. Um, Part of which is I don't know how this is going to translate to the main roster, like you guys are talking about. Um, I think this works in a smaller setting like NXT, small, more intimate setting. But I think it's going to be. I'm gonna look at. I mean, obviously things are a lot different now than they were back in 2016 when Bayley got called up. But I'm going to look at Bayley. She's down in NXT. People are calling her the next female John Cena. She's got all this hype, and I mean, she was one of the biggest things down in NXT. She gets called up to main roster with the hugger gimmick, and the majority of main roster viewers aren't necessarily paying attention to NXT, and that's still kind of the case. She debuted and it was pretty lackluster, and they were never quite able to get her over. Now, again, that's with Vince in charge. With Triple H in charge, I think there'll be a little bit more cohesion between NXT gimmicks and main roster gimmicks, as we've already kind of started to see. Carmelo Hayes being, a big one there. But with that, I think if they were to take this character and bring this character into the main roster without any changes, or even the entire family up to the main roster without any changes, they're going to seem like a light version of the Bloodline or a light version of the Judgment Day and or Final Testament. There's a lot of those kind of mafioso style gimmicks right now, even though they're not branded as like an Italian mafia. It's kind of like that. The Bloodline is a mafia, essentially. So I don't know how it would translate. So I think I'm hoping Tony D'Angelo and the family are kind of sticking around NXT for a little while longer, because I think moving up to main roster would end up being a detriment to everybody in that faction.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep moving here with matches, and we'll touch on some segments and run for the hills. Jaida Parker versus Stephanie Vaquer for Iron Survivor qualifier. We saw Stephanie. I wrote in my report Stephanie Parker won this match in approximately 11 minutes. I'll have to go back and fix that.
Okay, Booker T.
Yeah, right. I apparently did it, and I'm making fun of Booker T. But you know what? I'm not paid for it. Booker T, you are. So there you go. Yeah. So anyway, we saw Stephanie Vaquer go over in approximately 11 minutes here. I thought this was a really good match, and this match, I think, is probably my favorite of the night. And I think that there were a lot of stakes, kind of a lot on the line here, even though there really wasn't a lot on the line here. But obviously, the Iron Survivor Challenge is the qualifier, to be put in that match. That's stipulation. That's what the stakes are. But for me, coming into this match, Jaida Parker is somebody that I'm looking at. They're pushing her really hard. They want her to be kind of one of those top stars, and she's flourishing in that role. Stephanie, and she's a homemade talent, homegrown talent. Whereas Stephanie Vaquer, she's not a homegrown talent. She comes in from the Indies, but she's, I mean, fantastic. I think she's the better wrestler of the two. Nothing to knock on Jaida Parker. She's still a great wrestler, but I think out of the two of them, Stephanie's a better wrestler. So I feel like there was a lot on the line, kind of for the perception of the fans, but also kind of probably pressure on like Jaida to be able to perform and be like, yes, I can perform at the same level as Stephanie and something like that. I think they both went out there and killed it. Jaida Parker, she understands her character both in and out of the ring. Stephanie, she's still kind of adapting a little bit to the NXT WWE style, but she's still a phenomenal talent as well. I thought they had some good chemistry here. I liked the fact that they kept going to Jaida Parker's shoulder and working the shoulder, made that part of the story. We saw during the finish, Lola Vice came down the entrance ramp to distract Parker, because Jaida Parker and Lola Vice, if you recall, have been in kind of a weeks-long feud. Kind of, are they friends? Aren't they friends? Okay, they're not friends. And so she comes out, kind of distracts Parker, which allowed Vaquer to quickly wind up getting her finish, which I don't know if they've ever named her finish. They didn't, at least tonight. But to get her finish on her for the win in 11 minutes. So we'll see Stephanie Parker heading to the Iron Survivor Challenge. Stephanie Parker, I just said it because I read it. Stephanie Vaquer. I got to fix my report. Stephanie Vaquer in approximately 11 minutes. What did you think of the match? And I guess, how do you feel about actually both Stephanie and Jaida as a whole, really?
Yeah, I think, and you guys have said for weeks that you're very high on Jaida Parker, and I am too. I think, like you said, this was 100% a chance to let Jaida work with a very talented performer. And I think she did great. I think she, again, they meshed well. They kind of fit with each other's styles. And this has certainly been a trend throughout WWE programming for the last 6 weeks or so. I don't think I'm very displeased that Lola came out to cause the finish. You could have brought her out right after. You could have, and really and truly have her come out and hit her with the brick, kick her while she's down, and be like, "I told you," No matter how good you think Stephanie Vaquer is, you diminish her a little bit when she picks up a W because of a distraction. And especially knowing that Stephanie is the established star and Jaida is still the up-and-comer, there is no dishonor in losing to someone who is better than you. I didn't like that. Also, kudos to Stephanie, because Jaida is not your average sized female wrestler, and you could see that Stephanie trying to get that finishing move was I don't want to say a struggle, but it was a challenge. I think it took her a little extra to try to get her over. I was initially a little worried that she wasn't going to be able to get all the way over, and she did. And I think, really and truly, if I have to be honest, there did look to be a little relief in Stephanie's face once the move got over, because I think even she kind of realized, we should have probably practiced this at least once before we did it. But all the same, she was able to do it, and she's going to have to. There's going to be the Zarias and the Raquel Rodriguez. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be women who are not 5'4" and 120 pounds, and so you're going to have to figure that out. But all in all, yeah, Stephanie, I think, is the right winner. I like how the Iron Survivor is shaping up, and I'll be interested to see who the other two are to flesh that out, because I think, especially on the women's side, that has a chance to be a really cool match with a lot of really talented women.
No, 100%. 100%. Brock in the chat says, I like both Jaida and Wren. Too bad they couldn't move on, but it's understandable why they didn't, for a lot of the reasons Kevin just mentioned. I wish there was a clean finish here too. I'm a little bit more okay with the Lola Vice interference where it was. I think it was in attempt to protect Jaida Parker from a clean loss, but I agree with you. It kind of it diminished the win for Stephanie a little bit. I I think it'll be fine. I don't think it's anything we'll even be talking about next week. But yeah, I don't know. I wish maybe they did it a little bit differently. I think there are other ways of doing it. They could have told the same story, but it is what it is. Like you said, there's no shame in losing to somebody that's better than you. I mean, we saw that with Wren Sinclair and Zaria later on in the night. Wren Sinclair lost somebody that was better than her, and I still think she came out of that match looking good. So,
Yeah.
All right, our opening match here tonight saw Nathan Frazer go over Eddy Thorpe in approximately 11 minutes to enter the Iron Survivor Challenge for the men at Deadline in a couple weeks. Last week we saw Ava call every tag team in the NXT. In NXT, call them to action, kind of make them hungry and more energized and like I said, hungrier for the tag team titles. Nathan Frazer, being one half of the NXT Tag Team Champions alongside Axiom, is now obviously a major target in the division. So where he's out here for a match, why not have every tag team that happens to be employed by NXT either come out to watch this match or join in the ruckus afterwards? We ended up seeing, and this, like I said, this is a really good match between Frazer and Thorpe. Both of them are phenomenal competitors, so you'd expect nothing but a great match out of these guys, which I think they did. I do kind of like the fact that it wasn't just Nathan Frazer that was getting distracted by all these tag teams out there. Eddy Thorpe, the tag teams weren't out there, for Eddy Thorpe. They weren't watching him. They were keeping an eye on one half of the tag team champions. But even Eddy, it started, in story, throwing him off a little bit, and they were calling it out on commentary and stuff, where they don't usually do that. Usually it's like if there's a bunch of people ringside, they're distracting one person and the other person who they're not here for, completely fine, and so I like that. It kind of humanized Eddy Thorpe a bit, and it made just everything a little bit more believable. So I do like that. We saw after the match, right at the finish of the match, all of the tag teams kind of started to crowd the ring a little bit, and then they all started fighting with one another, which the distraction is kind of what allowed Nathan Frazer to get the win in approximately 11 minutes with the Phoenix splash on Thorpe, which was a little bit of a rough landing. It almost looked like
his knee or elbow caught him in the head.
Yeah. So I hope he's okay. But it looked like he was. Just looked like he being Eddy Thorpe, the one taking the move.
Pronouns pal.
But pronouns pal. Yeah. So anything on? Oh, sorry. And then we saw obviously all of the tag teams that weren't already ringside spill out from the back. This big giant brawl ensued that wound up continuing throughout the course of the night. I think we were led to believe that all of these men were fighting each other for well over 90 minutes or so, all throughout the backstage area. Referees couldn't pull them apart. The guys have unlimited stamina and never got tired. They just kept fighting.
They all had Wheaties and catering.
Yes.
Listen, firstly, I think the biggest takeaway outside of the match for me, there's a lot of tag teams in NXT. Like, certainly we just learned that there are far more groups than get regular airtime. Now, I think, as I'm still connected with a lot of my buddies in Florida, that the coconut loop, if you will, is still alive and kicking. And so I imagine a lot of these tag teams are getting regular play. Yes, Brock, a very magical place. And why wouldn't it be when it is 3 miles down the road from the most magical place on earth? But I think, I think that was a huge show that there were that many tag teams that it's like, boy, if they wanted to do some sort of tag league, they've got the firepower to do it. That said, I am a big Eddy Thorpe fan, and I feel bad for him because he got that big push through the whole NXT underground thing. And then it just kind of stopped. And I do think he got hurt somewhere in there, but all the same, like I feel like he certainly can move. I think, he's got I actually full circle moment, follow and interact periodically on Facebook with Tatanka, the former early
Nice.
90s wrestler. His son is actually an amazing high school wrestler who's getting some looks by some of the Midwestern wrestling programs like Iowa and Iowa State that are known for being really good. Um, but when Eddy Thorpe first started like really coming out, I had like commented on a Tatanka post that WWE needs to bring him back as like a legend to like essentially train Eddy Thorpe like on TV, like to be his manager or be his whatever. Because how often do you have somebody with indigenous heritage come through a system like this? Now, also, now that I'm saying that, what happened to the larger gentleman who also claimed indigenous roots? I forget his name now. He was in the breakout tournament.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about? He wore a lot of denim
and I wanted to say Bearcat, but that was what they were calling Keith Lee.
No, that's what they were calling. Poor Keith Lee.
Oh my God!
Also, did you see in the Iron Survivor montage from last year or the year before that Dijak's name was on the lineup? And I was like,
I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that.
But yeah, I remember there's another gentleman with indigenous roots.
Yeah, I knew. I can picture the guy clear as day. He had like a bear, like tiger headdress or something on.
Something. He was a bigger guy.
Yeah.
But in any event.
Yeah.
I want to see.
Trey Bearhill.
Look at that.
Yeah, that was his name.
I want to see Eddy do well and do more. And I think, like other places, NXT has an embarrassment of riches, and certainly there's a log jam at the top. But like, I think the thing that's hurting him is this like what's going to happen, and I can actually kind of see this playing out in a very similar way to how Bronson Reed has elevated himself on the main roster, where a snap is coming, right? Because every week he's asking Ava, what do I got to do? And she's like, oh, next time. And like, even tonight, he kind of was like, okay, fine. You don't want to give me an answer. I'm going to make an answer. And so I think we're about to see Bronson Reed 2.0 play out on the NXT roster. And he's just going to start showing up and taking people out to get noticed, to start getting himself in that place. And if that's what it takes, great. Because I do think he's talented enough to be, at the very least, challenging for the North American title. But it was a good match, like you said. I think everybody played their part well. I like that even with all the ruckus on the outside and all the rabble-rousing, that didn't cause the fact that both of the guys got involved in the rabble-rousing didn't lead to the cancellation of a match, which I liked, because in other circumstances they very easily could have just called it a no contest. But yeah, overall it was a good opener, and I think the crowd really got into all the tag teams beating each other up. And I think, if anything, it's opened the door to the next Axiom and Frazer defense being a tag team lumberjack match, and get all those tag teams out on the outside.
I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. Sleep all night, work all day. I was about to start talking about Trey Bearhill, and then I cited Monty Python. Trey Bearhill was one of the releases earlier in the year.
Okay.
So I knew that while you were talking, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah, one of the releases earlier in the year. I would love to see something like Tatanka. I mean, it was less than 10 years ago that he showed up in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal.
And I tell you what, based on his profile, he's not cut like he used to be, but he works out 6 days. Yeah. I mean, he's still in pretty good shape. So I bet he could take a bump if he needed to.
Yeah. I wonder, I mean, I know Chief Jay Strongbow's up there. I think he's in his 80s at this point, but I don't know. That's another.
I don't know if we need Jay to come out. I'd worry that He'd put himself in peril being on the sidelines there.
Yeah, that's true too.
But at least
But
Tatanka could take a bump.
yeah, 100%, 100%. I actually really like that idea, and maybe it would be like, because I think we're about, like you said, we're about to see something for Eddy Thorpe. He was pissed off that everybody else seemed to be getting all these opportunities and he's not. So like it felt like a villain origin story type of a thing when he was walking away.
Or just the unhinged babyface. It doesn't have to be a villain flip, but
Yeah,
it definitely is going to be the, okay, I'm done asking and shaking hands and playing nice. Like, it's time to do this with actions, not words.
yes. All right, we've got a few segments to hit on here before we wrap up and call it a night. Kalani Jordan asked Mr. Stone and Stevie Turner to talk to Ava into giving her an Iron Survivor qualifier match next week. So we're going to see Kalani Jordan face somebody. I don't think they actually did. They mention.
I can't remember. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Towards the end of the show, they ran down what some of the matches going to be for next week, and I can't remember if they mentioned who it was going to be or not. But so we're going to see that. We see Kalani Jordan. Potentially see her in an Iron Survivor qualifier. We got a Roxanne Perez shared a selfie video from the beach on vacation, trying to relax, talk about how much better she is than everybody else and all that, and a bag of chips. Sol Ruka just happened to be running past her on the beach. I'm sure that the beach is nice and small and you can see everybody on the beach all at once. So that's how she spotted Roxanne Perez. And she ended up photobombing the video. It basically said to enjoy her vacation because afterwards you'll be seeing more of me. We saw Lexus King backstage talking about, and at first I thought he was literally just talking to himself. Like it sounded to me like he was reciting a speech that he was trying to give to somebody else. Like, I'm a good guy. I really am, And
what was the Saturday Night Live? The Stuart Smalley, right? When he's looking in the mirror and he's like, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
People like me.
It kind of had that vibe, didn't it?
Yeah, it kind of did. And the camera kind of pans out a little bit. And I'm going to butcher the name, I'm sure. But he ends up, it turns out that he was the entire time was talking to Pro Wrestling Noah star, who also appeared. He did appear last week as well. His name Yoshiki Inamura. I'm hoping I didn't butcher it too bad.
Close enough. I would imagine.
All right, cool. I'm good. So he was so that's who he was talking to. Yeah, he ends up walking away. He being Lexus King walks away. Josh Brigg walks up to Yoshiki and it's like, what was that all about? And he's like, NXT is a crazy place. And of course, as soon as he says that, this massive tag team brawl that we were talking about a little bit ago comes running into the scene. And Yoshiki is kind of like, yeah, my kind of crazy. As we kind of cut out.
It's kind of like the early like cartoons where like it's just the ball cloud of dust as people just like roll by, and it's like, oh, I guess things are happening.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last thing we haven't talked about, Fatal Influence standing in the corner of the ring. Fallon Henley saying that, or not the corner of the ring, the center of the ring. Fallon Henley saying she's going to issue an open challenge for the North American title. Lash legend Jakara Jackson came out. Lash legend, wants a shot at the title. Nikita Lyons came out saying, nope, I want a shot at the title. Adriana Rizzo was like, nope, I don't think so, and ends up taking out Nikita Lyons from behind, considering Adriana Rizzo was taken out by Nikita a few weeks ago. They're still in a bit of a feud. And then before you know it, the entire female locker room spills out in a massive brawl because that is the theme of the night, having a whole bunch of people in a brawl. Fallon Henley stood solo in the ring and looked on as Tatum Paxley kind of slithered up from under the apron and up behind Fallon Henley in the ring, planted her to the mat, and then held the North American Championship up high. And I believe they mentioned later on in the night that match was made official. Yeah. So anything on those segments? We had the Kalani Jordan segment, Roxanne Perez, Lexus King, and then Fatal Influence.
Now, tonight was a very busy episode with a lot of stuff going on. Again, I'm all for storytelling. I think that was one of the things that former co-host Tom Staup and I had in common, that you want to see a good story being told, and I think they're trying to get people on TV and tell the stories. I thought they did fine. I think I am in full agreement with Brock's last comment. Keep everybody out of the parking lot. It is probably the most dangerous place in the history of the world to be, apparently, because crimes happen and there is never law enforcement nearby to help. So never mind Strongbow, just everybody stay away from the Performance Center parking lot.
Yes, 100%. Even if you're a fan, I think you've got to park. If you're a fan, you're there to see the show. I think you've got to park far away anyway, and they bring a shuttle.
Take the bus in, right?
Yeah. And I think they do that because it's safer, not because there's limited parking, but because it's safer.
Yeah, they've got this whole like mall-sized parking lot, but just because they don't want you to get mugged or abducted or beat up, they shuttle you in from another place.
Yeah, you never know. You never know who's lurking. All of a sudden you see Hornswoggle in a bush or something. I don't know. Anyway, as I bring up Hornswoggle in a bush, that's going to bring us to the end of our show, guys. I'm Nate Lindberg. You can check the things I do out at natelindberg.com. Kelly Wells, you can check the things he does out at Spooky Milk on social media or spookymilk.games. Hopefully Kelly will be back with us next week. Kevin, thank you very much for filling in. Like I said, once again, who are you?
Well, I'm Kevin Cattani. You can find me on Twitter at KP Cattani. And then I've also created an account on Blue Sky, which I know Wade and a few others are also trying out. And I'm KP Cattani there too. So you're welcome to look for me there if you're going to give that a whirl. But yeah, so please come talk. Let's talk wrestling. Let's talk Magic the Gathering. Let's talk emotional intelligence. I'm a kind of a mixed bag of things, but I'd love to chat with whoever wants to chat.
We could chat about a mixed bag of nuts. And with that, we'll see you next week. Take care.